So, good morning, sir. My name is Nel Mark Ligara, and this is what this is my reporting about the CLJ1. My topic was all about the restorative justice. So, what is restorative justice? Restorative justice is a process through which remorseful offenders accept responsibility for their victims and community. It creates obligation, make things right through proactive involvement of victims, ownership of the offender of the crime, and the community in search for solution which promote repair, reconciliation, and reassurance. For example, some of the most common programs typically associated with restorative justice are mediation and conflict resolution programs, family group conferences, victim impact panels, victim offender mediation, circle sentencing, and community reparative boards. The emergence of restorative justice. First, the movement of restorative justice in Europe emerged at the beginning of the 1990s, but the practice of mediation between the victim offender is not new. So one is the in the 1960s, there was a debate. There was a debate on how victims and offenders were given an opportunity to confront and resolve their issues. In the modern justice, it broadened its concept, which include communities of care with 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 victims and offenders, families and friends, participating on the collaboration process, which they call conferences and circles. Next, the International Institute of Restorative Practices emerged from the Community Service Foundation and Boxmount Academy, which provided programs for delinquent at-risk youths in southeastern Pennsylvania, USA in 1977. So, the overview of restorative justice. The IRIT. The IRIT ways of understanding restorative justice. E stands for empowerment. Empowerment of the parties involved in the wrong committed. R stands for repair. Crime causes harm and justice requires repairing that harm done. E stands for encounter. Wherein the best way to determine how to do that is to have parties decide together in setting dispute. And lastly, T stands for transformation. This can cause fundamental changes in people, relationship, and communities as a whole. The four key values of restorative program: the encounter, amends, reintegration, and inclusion. First, the encounter. So, the encounter, this is created when the victims, offenders, and community members who voluntarily meet to discuss the crime. Amends. This is done when the offender take the necessary steps to repair the harm that they have caused and inflicted. Reintegration aims to restore victims and offenders as a whole. The elements of reintegration are acknowledging human dignity and worth, providing material assistance, and offering moral spiritual direction. Inclusion. Create opportunities for the parties with a piece for a piece with a piece for a specific crime to participate in resolution. Examples of conclusions are invitation, acknowledgement that each individual are unique and has different views, and that he or she may and some other alternative ways or approaches. Restorative justice, the core values, the offender, apology. This is done by the offender either through the oral or right form, recognizing his accountability and not just seeing himself as a victim, and realizing and acknowledging the harm and pain as experienced by the victim. Reintegration, making his or her place back in the community, particularly done through the action plan developed under the healing and repairing the harm. The victim. So This is the core values of the restorative justice, the offender and the victim. So the victim, harm. This is done through assessing the harm done, developing a case strategy of a plan to repair the harm, and creating an action plan for those responsible for healing and repairing the harm. Forgiveness. The opportunity is given to the victim to accept an apology from the offender and to extend forgiveness. Lastly, the community. So the community is part of core values of the restorative justice. Relationship. This is done through the healing broken relationship and creating new relationship. Theories of restorative justice. So the theories of restorative justice are reversal of moral disengagement, social and moral development, emotional and moral psychological healing, and reintegrative shaming. So the first one is reversal of moral disengagement. This is a moral psychological theory concerned with the psychology or behavior of a person as observed in relation to moral matters. This is manifested or expressed in terms of the moral judgment of right and wrong, social and moral development. Morality may be viewed as a socially constructed reality within which people's behavior is judged in terms what is morally right and wrong. Emotional and moral psychological healing. Ritzinger and Sheff have observed that there are two processes occurring side by side in a restorative justice conference: the material and symbolic restorations. I mean reparations. The process of material reparation results in a final settlement between offender and victim and typically consists in specific agreements about com I mean compensating the victim, community, service, and etc. So the last one is reintegrative shaming, a form of shaming imposed as a sanction by the criminal justice system that is thought to strengthen moral bond between the offender and the community. So restorative versus the punitive justice system. What is the differences between restorative and punitive justice system? So first, we gotta go to restorative. Restorative, it includes those who are affected by the incident and the response, understand how the people were harmed and affected by what happened, agree on action to make things right, find what actions can be taken to repair harms and to get right with the community. Punitive, punitive, only deal with the wrongdoer. And second is focus on what rule was broken, punish the wrongdoer, exclude the wrongdoer by suspension, explosions, and etc. So that was all my report of about the restorative justice. So thank you po, sir.